Okay, the first case on the agenda is the application of HRR Corp., 12 Sergio Lane, Monroe, New York, for a review of an administrative determination of the Assistant Building Inspector and an interpretation to permit the use of an assisted living facility / adult care facility in an SR10 zone as a pre-existing adult home for the mentally disabled or as a single-family dwelling, or in the alternative, B, a use variance from the requirements of Section 200, Schedule 1B, Table of Use Requirements in the SR10 zoning district. The current use of the property is a single-family home. The proposed use is a home for senior citizens in need of assistance. The property, which is the subject of said action by the board, is located in an SR10 zoning district and is identified as Section 206, Block 5, Block 4, Dot 12, on the tax map of the Village of Monroe. This is continuation from the meeting on October 10, 2017. John, what I'd like to mention to you is the fact that currently there's only 3. We expected a possibility that a 4th member may appear. You obviously you understand that in order to have your request granted, you're going to need 3 votes.
Yes.
And therefore, since the chairman isn't here and possibly one of the members is either late or not here, you have every right to adjourn this matter until the next date, which is in December, because it's December 10th. And hopefully at that point, again, there's never any guarantees, but we'll have 5 members at that time.
Yes, I would like request that the board, but not take action tonight. But I would like to briefly discuss the submission I made for the meeting, and also the submission that I was requested to make for tonight. And then we do have some people here if you have any questions. I know you had asked for Ms. Lee Lieutenant. She's here and available if you have any questions. And to briefly summarize, you had asked at the last meeting to provide something from Ms. Lee, and we did provide an affidavit from her showing that she is the sole owner and operator of Rest Haven Inc., that they will be the operating entity that will have a lease to operate the adult care facility. They will operate the entire facility. There may be an intervening lease. We're working that out just for Rest Haven Preservation Inc. to be able to enforce the historic character of the structure, so they wouldn't be necessarily occupying it, but they would have the ability to ensure that the historic preservation portion of this important building be kept.
If this works out to preservation of Rest Haven Inc., and then from that organization to Rest Haven Inc., who is the
right, Rest Haven Preservation Inc. So it's not totally reflected in the package here, but that will be massaged as we go through.
So there won't be 2 separate ones, will be either one or the other, just the title will be different, like.
Right, there will be one organization that would, if it works out that way, it'd either be HRR to Rest Haven Inc., who will operate the whole facility. There may be an intervening where HRR would go to Rest Haven Preservation, give them the right, once again, just to enforce the historic character and make sure the building is maintained in a manner.
Management company. So
Yeah, in essence.
It's not going to change the use at all.
It won't change the use. All they will be there is to make sure that nobody pulls out the staircase and puts in metal stairs or changes.
Well, we know that HRR is a for-profit company.
Yes.
And in your statement, it says the preservation of Rest Haven Inc. would be a non-profit, and Rest Haven Inc., the operator, would be a for-profit.
Yes. Rest Haven preservation is only for the sole purposes of preserving it, the historical features of it, so that is a nonprofit. But the operation of the facility, as we've said from the beginning, will be a for-profit venture, and HRR will be the landlord. It will be responsible for repairing the facility for whatever landlords are.
Before we start, I'd just like to do some marking. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. I think the last thing we went was, yeah, sorry, we need it. Discovered this wasn't in the record, so I'm putting it in. This is the letter in response to the land use determination from James Cox to Timothy Mitz, dated April 22nd, 2016. And this is the initial determination based on the first land use form that was filed. I got this marked.
Thanks.
Where we at X?
Why don't you take on, I'll get a copy.
All right.
Which we'll have as deemed marked, because unfortunately I wrote it all for my copy. It is the application of HRR Corp. Before the board, dated May 18th, 2017. It's the entire application. It's the application that we are working on today. And I'd like that marked as Y.
So that was the first application you submitted?
No, that's the application that was filed by Mr. Capella on May 18, 2017.
We need that entered as an exhibit. We need that entered as an exhibit.
Is that a good? There are documents attached to it.
Oh,
Which I'm not.
Typically you
Okay.
wouldn't, but there are so many documents here that it
Attached
might
to
just
it.
make it.
easier.
Yeah, there's referrals back and forth, and that's the only way we can get this straight.
But it's too organized.
Believe it or not, the most important thing was to get a common agreed upon fact pattern, so we can make a, fair and cogent decision. Okay, Z, that marked as Z, is the letter that was sent by Mr. Capella, November 2nd, 2017, which contains some more information in reference to, there's the introductory letter, and then there's the discussion of the Connors case, and then there's the affidavit of Pamela Brownlee, that marked as Z. And again, I wrote on this.
So both of them are Z?
Yes, one was the attachment to the letter.
And again, in order to operate an adult care facility.
This text?
Yes, that's the word.
And this is the department.
If we get the three, yeah.
Well, he asked again, what can I say?
Thank you.
Okay.
So what I did submit, we have new before you, is the November 2nd letter and the affidavit from Ms. Lee, who is here tonight. If you do have a question, because maybe they have requested that she attend. But as I said, she's the sole shareholder of Rest Haven Inc. They will be they are the company, as you will see from the application materials I discussed, that is the applicant to the Department of Health for the license to operate this facility. They will be utilizing and operating all 3 floors. Ms. Lee, as the operator, will be living on the 3rd floor with Mr. Mitz. Mr. Mitz is presence there will be as Ms. Lee's partner, not as the landlord. The full premises will be leased to Rest Haven Inc. It will be operated, they will share facilities. It will be operated as the group home, just as if in the prior use at the point there's third floor employee will live there, or, you know, so there will be, Ms. Lee's presence will be there 24/7. Obviously, they will shop and go out and be there, but and when they're not there, there will be employees there. The operations I discussed, it's consistent with the testimony from Ms. Wendy Monroe, who was at the last meeting. It will be an adult care facility, not an assisted living facility, not a nursing home. It will be a place where 8 individuals, potentially at one point up to 10 or 14 couples, will live there as essentially a family unit. They will have care there. They will have someone assisting to get them rides some places, to help them with day-to-day living so they can continue to occupy as a community, occupy and live in the community. The second part of my letter is a discussion of the Connors case that was raised at the last meeting, and I believe that case is consistent with the presentation we have made in that case. The County Supreme Court determined that a group home, in that particular instance, it was a group home under the mental hygiene law that was for the developmentally disabled, was exempt from zoning because its purpose was to exempt those types of facilities from zoning in order to provide a community setting. It went through an analysis. In that case, it was a request from the neighbors for a preliminary injunction denying it. That was denied. That case cited other cases, as I discussed in my memo and as I discussed in other submissions there, from the Court of Appeals and appellate courts, that not only held that group homes for developmentally disabled were exempt, but also foster homes or other homes where groups of people live for the purpose of continuing to participate in the community in a home-like setting versus an institutional setting. So we rest, but I think it's all consistent with our argument that the purpose of this facility and allowing people to, instead of an institutional setting, be able to live in a home-like setting, be able to continue to live mostly in the communities that they've always lived, as long as they're functioning until they transition to another state, is consistent with it. We've highlighted the purposes in the laws that permit these types of facilities, in the adult use law, that the purpose is to allow as much a home-like setting as possible. So we believe, while not exactly the same class of people living in there and not licensed under the mental hygiene law with the other facility, that we are essentially doing the same facility. So package that we submitted here is the original application packet, had the first application to the state. I'll run through these real quick. I'm not going to go through in detail because I just did submit it today, but there's, we have our 6, what we've labeled as exhibits, which really is the questions that were asked by the representative from the Department of Health, Robin Dillon, and attached to each of the emails are the replies submitted by Rest Haven, the applicant. So the first set shows and corrects, because the first application you have does show a different entity, but the August 17th submission, which is Exhibit 1, through it, it does have an errata sheet of the fourth page in that says the applicant now is Rest Haven Inc. It acknowledges in this application packet, in response to one of Ms. Dylan's questions that there were some inconsistencies in the original application where it went from assisted living to adult facility, that was clarified that this is an adult home, not an assisted living facility, that would provide more, a higher level of medical care and assistance. So, and provided some financial information. The second exhibit is a July 5th, 2017 email where Ms. Dillon requested some additional financial information, and in that email she acknowledged that the review was a little over 50% complete at that time. There then was a July 14th email exchange where there was some clarification regarding the process, because there was a question raised as to whether an elevator was needed, and as Dylan said, as long as the architect could certify that a chairlift met the requirements of the building code, that would be fine, but that really is not a zoning board issue. It's going to be an issue if this board allows us to go forward. It will be an issue for Mr. Cox to confirm as part of the building permit application. The fourth was one that is more recent. In September 2017, there was a follow-up request for additional documentation regarding Ms. Lee's finances and the operation of the facility, which we have provided the records from the state. But I would request by the board, to the extent that we can, keep that as confidential. It's a record. I'm sure someone could get it. And then the last piece of information that was requested in October 2017 was what they call a Schedule 6, providing operational information as to the employee guidelines that the facility will be required to adopt for their employees. Has a copy of the written lease. The written lease in this instance is from HRR to Rest Haven Inc. That may change slightly, as I discussed at the beginning. And then the last exhibit, probably should use the word different than exhibit, attachment, but is a memo that Mr. Mitz provided me, just showing where he was in the physical alterations to the building that would have to be in place for it to be an adult facility, but frankly would be typical of improvements that you could make to a single-family home. So they are permitted to continue to occur, but we're showing that they would be consistent with what is needed for the adult care facility. That includes fencing and some different aspects. So if you have any questions, I'd be here for... Okay,
simple stuff. Exhibit D, I assume you now ignore. That's the old application for the Lee Galveston telephone.
Yeah, well, that was, if you took it, that was the original application. These have all been amended, and so I don't know if you throw it away or...
We'll have this, but
this is the information.
This is not what we should...
It's not correct, no.
Okay. We should be more interested in the...
There may be something in there that wasn't necessary to amend. I don't through it that closely, to be honest with you, but I don't think it's... I think these materials should be...
Okay. One thing that's driving me crazy, you can all help me on this. I keep counting, I have David Demastro's plans, which is A and B.
Right.
I count the bedrooms, and I only get 9 bedrooms.
Okay, I can explain that to you.
Okay, if you
Very
could.
simple. Do you have the architectural plans in your
Yeah,
lab
I
there?
have.
Anything you have questions about, it's real simple, it's really actually simple to answer. What it is, let me see which one this is.
I kept counting.
Okay, this first one, it's labeled A1. That's your first main level. That's the first floor of the house.
And no bedrooms on.
No bedrooms on that floor, okay? That's fine. Then you have your second floor, which is your A2. And David has spent a lot of time trying, because we had to send these same documents to the state. Everything you get, the state gets, It's just that we've been drilling down more and more as you guys have been asking, and as the state's been asking for stuff. So, like as you know, I'm very in love with this house, so I'm really trying to keep it the way it is. You know, really am, so you understand. On this A2, there's 6 bedrooms. Okay? Up on the 3rd floor, there's rooms up there that total up to 10. That would equal up to the 10 bedrooms that the CO has in the 3rd floor. Because that used to be served, and that's
Where's
Yeah, that's what you want to see.
and that's the A3.
Because I only count 3.
Okay, A3, you got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, so it's called a living room.
Well, he called it a living, but it really could be a bedroom. Technically, it could be used as a bedroom.
So that's the mysterious kind of bedroom.
Yes. Because that was always, the 3rd floor was always used as a servant's
There is a
room.
closet there. It's small.
Yeah, there's a closet there,
So
yes.
that's why it can be considered a bedroom.
Yes.
Okay, I just,
Yeah, no, that's, I want you to ask, please ask, please ask.
Would
I
any of
want
these 10
you-
rooms be used
Huh?
by, would any of these 10 rooms be used by yourself or the staff?
The 3rd floor would be for staff or somebody staying over, or Pam living there, she'll be having one of the rooms for that type of coverage. The way it's set up is that the residents themselves will only be on the 2nd floor and no other floor. And that's where they're set up to be, on the 2nd floor.
there'll be no residents on the 3rd floor?
3rd floor would be the owner occupier on the 3rd floor, and only the adult residents of the facility will be on the 2nd floor. That's why there's only, if you look at the licensing, we're talking about 6, 8, 10 people in there. And the reason for that is, by law, the room only has to be 10 by 12. The smallest room is 260 square feet, the biggest room is 550. So the theory is, if Ms. Lee happens to get a situation where husband and wife want to come in together, or if siblings have been living together for years want to come together, we have the ability to put 2 people in one room with that layout by law.
And are you talking about all of the bedrooms or just the larger bedrooms?
Only the second, all 6 rooms, all the 6 bedrooms on the 2nd floor only.
Second floor.
And I think if you can show me the A2 again, I think actually David did maybe,
Yeah, but I know what you're talking about, but
he wanted 2.
he only put 2 of them.
Well, but we didn't want to really get past that. We're trying to stay like around 8. We don't really want to get it that big. So if you take 6 rooms, and you
Okay,
got 2 in each room, and then you got the other rooms, you got your 8 people.
so are you going to max out, I know the initial request is for 8.
Yes.
Are you going to max out at 8?
That's what we're looking to keep it at 8. We're trying to keep it very, very, very simple for you and for us.
You mind if I see that? Oh, yes.
It's nothing different than, you know, you've had parents that have gone into care and stuff, and maybe just need, like where you're going home and taking care of mom and dad every day, taking them here, taking them there, doing this, doing, that's what we're talking about. That's the type of facility we're talking about. We're not talking about anything above that level. Just the type of facility where your parents, where you know your parents are getting their doctor's appointments, you know you know if they need help with laundry, they need this, they need that, the service is there for them. But that's all it is.
Okay, you explained bedroom number 10.
Thank you.
Can we ask questions of Ms. Lee?
Sure.
Okay. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to read through this entire document, so if you could fill in, you know, some parts that I'm asking. You are applying for a ACF, right? Adult care
Yes.
facility. You are not applying for a assisted care facility, is that correct?
No, that's correct, we're not.
I noticed that there is a lease agreement in here where the tenant, Rest Haven Inc., is going to pay a monthly rent to the HRR Corporation.
Correct,
Is that correct?
yes.
Again, subject to if there's any changes
Yes.
by the third party is concerned. So there is a lease agreement between the person that's going to be operating it and the owner of
Yes.
the building. Now, as we say, you made an application for 8 individuals
Yes,
initially,
yes.
and you're going to try to hold it at 8?
We're gonna hold it at
You're gonna hold it at
I
8?
think it's a very comfortable living for somebody to be living in that type of house. I mean, you might have life expectancies there of 10, 15 years. I mean.
I'm just trying to get the numbers.
Yeah.
It's important. One of the problems that just happened to hit me is that under the law and under the Department of Health, an assisted care facility can have up to 200 beds.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And we don't, that's, okay. Obviously, it's difficult for you to put 200 beds up there.
Yeah,
You probably are going to be the smallest licensed one in Orange County.
yes,
Soon.
probably New York State.
No, actually, true, it's possible. Actually, the one in Warwick only has 4 beds, but they don't qualify for this yet.
I think that, isn't that hospice or something, or Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
This is none of that. This is none of this a facility.
Yeah, that is what is a little, it's been confusing me because it's kind of like the environmental assessment form for seeker that is built for a 4,000 square foot facility or a 10,000 unit development or Palisades Mall. It's all the same form. So those forms, those application forms are the same forms that you would fill out if you're doing a 200 bedroom facility or you're doing an 8 bedroom in a house. So it is, they throw the word assisted living back, at you and adult care, and then they have charts. So it's not easy to get through, and I understand the questions.
Assuming you have the 8 residents in, how will they be paid? Will you be qualified for Medicaid?
We haven't even determined that. Wendy Pomaro, we're gonna work with her to figure that all out.
Well, let me tell you that you probably can't as an adult care facility. If you see D, when D was filled out,
D what?
Exhibit D, which was the first application.
This application.
Oh, the original application.
Okay, it mentions the fact that private pay 100%.
We've been talking about that. When we were not involved with Wendy at the time that application went in. Through the graces of John Capello, we've been able to fine tune everything. So once we know where we sit and what has to be done here, we can then better figure out what we can do and what we can't do.
Okay.
But to our end, we did put the property back on the payroll, on the real estate tax roll, because it contributes to the community as well, so. We're thinking about everybody out there, we just can't figure that out yet.
Well, according to the Department of Health, you'll need an ALP in order to collect Medicaid payments, and you're not applying for an ALP.
Correct.
You're applying for an ACF. So, at least initially, can we say that this is going to be a 100% full pay?
I think we could say that, okay. I can agree with that, yeah. I mean, it's not a large facility either, where you can offset residents.
Okay, and again, as an adult care facility, it will be the least amount of care given under the numerous licenses that are given.
Yes.
Okay, so an assisted living facility would be a larger amount of care. An enhanced assisted living facility would be more than that, but you're going to stick, as Mr. Midge testified last time, you're going to stick, because of the nature of the property.
Absolutely.
With simply
Yeah, it's a balancing act. The
Assisted
nature of the
living-
property
assisted
and,
living
yeah,
plan.
I mean, I would have no problem if the board said, we're willing to do it, but to only 10 people or whatever, I mean, we can always entertain doing that if the board's concerned about it. Restricting how many people could be on the property, we have,
Well,
if that's a concern here, we have, we're open to everything.
okay.
Suppose you have a client there for a couple of years and they become ill, you might need specialized equipment. Do you eject them or?
As Wendy told you last time, recall Wendy's testimony last time, is that there's a form that gets filled out, 3122. A doctor must clear them for that facility. If their condition becomes greater than we can serve, they have to be relocated immediately. That it's required by law. They don't want somebody of age in an insufficient facility that can't, you know, plus we wouldn't want them in the building either. Why would we, if we can't give them the proper care, then we become liable if something happens. So liability is a big, big issue, obviously. And that's one of the big reasons why I put my heart and soul into fixing that place up, to make sure we've got a new alarm system into place, we're getting cameras around the place, we're doing everything possible to keep the safety of the residents.
I would add that within the agreement for the people taking them, because I have a neighbor that I'm helping out that's going through the same thing in Lennar, which is obviously a bigger facility, but she's in an apartment, and she's renting an apartment, but they have a provision there that if you need assisted living, you're entitled to go into the assisted living. You have so much time to then vacate your apartment to open it up for another person. If hopefully you got better and went back, you would have to. So I mean, no, it's not.
What if the person objects to being relocated? What process do you?
They actually have no choice. New York State licensing will come in, as Wendy instructed you last time, they come and inspect this stuff. And if somebody's not supposed to be there, they won't remove them because they're not going to put us and they're not supposed to stay there at exposure. You're not supposed to be there, you leave. I mean, we're looking for a certain level of care.
Do you mind if I follow up to that? Is there, do you have an idea, is it like a biannual or quarterly inspection to make sure that things like that are?
Oh, as far as according to when Wendy was here last week, because she says every year they come in, but the state also does spot checks too. Being a new facility that's operating in an old facility, they're going to be spot checking us even more.
So there's a guaranteed yearly annual inspection plus spot checks?
Yes, oh yeah.
Unannounced checks.
Unannounced, I'm told the yearly is probably announced, but during the years, definitely unannounced.
Yeah, so a spot check is usually unannounced, so it's.
I mean, it's just
announced
anything,
annual and spot
it's
checks.
anything like eight liquor authority, same thing, you know, they go and they spot check, facilities
We
and
make
make
sure
sure.
the checks for the Department of Health.
Yes,
They come every 18, they have their checks once every 18 months.
that's what I want, thank you.
Right. Plus they do spot checks, Wendy said, they do come in and do spot checks.
Okay.
And one of the protocols is once we have everything up and running, because all paperwork is submitted to the state of New York for licensing, is the sprinkler system, which we have to work with Mr. Cox on, which is part of the plans you see there. Outside of that, they come in and they initially come in, we have a list of things that must be in the office, posted on the wall. You got to be involved with a service to handle your payroll. You know, they're very, it's been daunting. You can look at the pilot. So, because I understand the numbers and the configurations of what goes on here. Yeah, everything is, they're on you every which way.
I'm just reading what the Department of Health puts out. There's actually, this is for the board, there are 14 conditions for which he would have to transfer. He's required to transfer. One of them is if a person regularly needs assistance from another person to walk or climb and descend stairs. That person has to be sent to a higher degree of care.
And that's what these annual checks and spot checks are for, to make sure that people like that are not slipping.
Not there.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he would need a different type of license.
But I'm sure these spot checks, but if the person becomes incapacitated prior to spot checks, I'm sure that you would contact.
Or immediately. This isn't something,
That's also the
these are
main
people
thing.
lives you're playing.
Right.
You know, just as if I put my own mother, who I do take care of in Rockland and half I have, I mean, I wouldn't allow that, you know, safety of the parents.
And if it is within their business. purpose.
Right, exactly, but even like Pam provided for her parents since 1986 in a house in Virginia Beach. mother died, she went down and got her father, you know, same thing, same love and care that goes on.
Give me an indication of the criteria that you might apply to the selection of clients as well as those you might reject.
I don't think there's anything other than their physical health that would be able to, that they would be able to,
They might have committed felonies in the past.
oh, that, oh, well, I guess, I never thought about somebody. I
Well,
guess they're,
One of the 14 is engages in drug or alcohol use that results in a criminal.
Yeah, that one,
Well, that's
even
if
as a
they're-
landlord,
that's if
I
they're
don't
in
like,
there.
I don't even allow, I worry about that in my rentals.
Really? You don't give use of drugs in your
Do
property?
you have an application? You probably don't have an application
We don't.
form
No.
together yet.
No.
Well,
That might-
again,
something from the
Yeah, you're again back to Kelly, you're still, now you're back to the same thing, the 3122.
Okay.
The ultimately, all your questions about criteria and everything else comes back to the 3122. I could say, Kelly, come on and stay, and your doctor says, no, Kelly, sorry, you can't go there. Don't worry, but I had 3 women who said they dumped their husbands to move in there. Answer that question.
I think that's one of the questions like some people were mentioning, I heard you asking about. Is this gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna let my friends stay here, if anybody else had a.
No.
Is this, or is it
No.
like, you give a fair?
oh, like it's
Is
sublet?
there gonna be, yeah, no, people that, potential occupants, they're gonna be a fair and democratic list of people that you choose, or you're just gonna be like, oh, I know this guy.
No.
No.
That's what a lot of people were mentioning.
Yeah, no, this is a business to take care of all the people that need help, to keep them in this community.
So you're gonna try to keep it.
We're gonna try and balance everything out, yeah. This property, if you look at the history of it, and unfortunately none of you's made it to see the documentary, but this history of this property's always been humanitarian. But I'm just saying, it's humanitarian, it's always taking care of the blind, because we got the young ladies here today. It's always taking care of the developmentally disabled, it took care of the Lance family for several years, who didn't even know they were raising their kids in such a house. So this is a humanitarian house, I'm trying to preserve it.
And then there's the house that she actually slept in.
All credit to you for that. But when Mr. McKendrick built this in 1904, he built this as a mansion.
Entertainment, no, large entertainment, I know that, but I know the original intent, I'm talking about today's intent.
But I just throw the caveat in because we talk about the use versus who's doing it. Looking through this form in the evaluation form, unlike a public facility, I'm not sure there's any specific criteria to say you couldn't, if you knew somebody, say, all right, it's my friend's parent who needs a place to stay, I have an opening and that person jumped, you know, we could say, but I don't know in a private facility, just in general, whether there is, you know.
Maybe I should, that was a personal question,
Yeah.
I should have waited till the open, public, when it was open to the public, but I knew that wasn't a criteria question. Yes.
I just wanted to be clear, because I know when I do, you know, the tax credit, seniors, they have criteria of how you have to choose, and how you know, you can't, even some municipalities just say, we want you to give preference to people who live in our municipality. If state money's involved in it, that could become a problem. I don't know in a private facility, other than just generally, you can't discriminate for race, creed, you know, gender. I don't know if you couldn't discriminate because I know somebody, or they're more able to pay, or anything else.
And again, some people might have downside when you say, oh, it's a community.
Yes.
You know,
Well, I think they're saying that, you know, it is a for-profit business, but they also want to take, it's a business. So they want to take, if there's somebody that's there and willing to pay and they qualify, and there's a room available, and there's nobody else, I'm sure that's it.
Oh, right, that wasn't what we were, yeah, I had a thought, because I was just saying about when you got a list full of a lot of people, is there a, you know, an arbitrary preference going on, or is it more like a democratic method?
I understand the question, I don't think it's specifically related to.
No, that's what I was saying, that's
So-
exactly why I said it's not a criteria question, it's more, that's why I said I should have held it to the public, you know, question.
Mr. Zuckerman.
And in your affidavit, which has been filed, You set forth in answer to question 8 what will be done. We will provide necessary assistance to residents, personal care, i.e. bathing, dressing, and toileting, supervision and case management, meal preparation, housekeeping, laundry, counseling, an individualized service plan, and medication management. Note, this does not include dispensation of medication or merely reminders of residents of what. Okay, this is basically the boilerplate for a adult care facility. This is the least amount of care that's licensed by the Department of Health. And that's basically the services that you are going to perform.
Yes.
48 residents that are
Yes, 6 to 8. Well, it starts, I think, 6 is the least, and then.
I think the two don't,
Yeah.
asking for the Department of Health permission to aid.
Yes.
Mr. Zuckerman, also just what the board will know, if you look at the Schedule 6, which I prepared and gave to the state recently, that has all the different forms that are required, inventory of residents, things that happen, if there's incidents that happen, employee handbook, that's all in Schedule 6, so you know. When you're asking about the operation, that's in more detail. And a lot of those forms in there are actually oil-plated state forms that they mandate that you use. And we went by just whatever they had there that says inventory, instances, when they have to be reported, when they don't have, it's all in that Schedule 6 folder, as far as the operation goes.
Okay, just one other thing, this is not personal. You have something in your affidavit which appears in other affidavits, and I just like to clarify it. When you mentioned something about the old operation there, AHRC, you said that developmentally disabled people licensed under New York State hygiene law as well as the Department of Health.
Where?
Okay, this is at the very end.
The last page.
Oh, okay.
I just want to clarify the record and say that, and again, this is based on the testimony of Christopher Fortune. The AHRC was and is licensed by OPWDD, not licensed by the Department of Health. The only reason that they are under the Department of Health, and in fact you gave us letters as part of your thing, is the purposes of Medicaid. That's where they get their Medicaid reimbursements. That's their connections, basically for benefits. They are not licensed by the Department of Health. It's not a license. And again, I'll let the record speak for itself. That's what Chris Fortune testified.
I should have said potentially regulated or auspices.
Yeah, I may have it exactly the way Chris Fortune said it, which is probably the correct way. Under the Department of Health, the Medicaid, and other benefit payments and programs. Okay, so there's a connection, but it's basically that. As far as they're under the mental health, the mental hygiene law, and they're licensed by the OPWDD. So there's a difference as far as where the actual licensing is coming from.
Did anybody else have any questions?
Seems to be a reluctance to have locks on the doors. That leads to potential problems, say allegations of theft and sexual harassment and continuation of allegations like that. How does that get resolved and who does that?
That's why you have a staff in there. You look at Part 6, there are incident reports and there are
Will the person be able to put a lock on their doors if they choose to?
My understanding is there's no reason or any reason in the EOH would be objective. The EOH would be objective to that happening, that people can protect their own possessions in their rooms. The rest of the house would be open, but we warn people walking into other rooms. But I mind you, the statement I made earlier, this camera is being put up all over the place. So I know I have cameras all outside the building right now. not inside, but there'll be cameras inside to control everything going on. So we have recorded everything that's going on. Plus, New York State law would require us to immediately report it if there's an issue to the state, and they will come and investigate it. They're not playing with this thing, that's for sure. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Well, we're all finished with this. Sit down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that your last witness? Mr.
Yes, we have nothing else.
Unless you have more questions.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak?
Would you like to, Mary? Would either of you like to speak?
Yeah.
She's our trust speaker.
What's that?
We have there.
That's
Okay.
Is that her? State your name and address for the record.
They're in front of you.
Hi.
Okay.
Hello.
Your name? Yes, details, yeah, your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Mary West, and I live in 135 West 23rd Street in Manhattan. And the reason I wanted to speak about this is because I was very interested in possibly being one of the residents in this facility. So consequently, I had numerous talks with both of them, Pam and Tim. And I just wanted to tell you what they told me, because I'm a fair person. And what they told me is pretty much what they told you, that it's going to be an assisted living facility for healthy older senior citizens, like some of us, I guess. And I'm a very healthy person myself, and so what they would provide would be laundry facilities, meals, programs, depending of course on the type of interests of the residents that they have. Like maybe we go to the movies, maybe we go to plays, and other types of entertainment, depending on the interest of the people who live there. So that would be provided along with, cleaning, housekeeping, that kind of thing. And just stuff that you would normally find in an assisted living type place. It would definitely not be a nursing home, and people who would be nursing home eligible would not be allowed to live there. And this is the information that they had told me. They would have a nurse, available, and that nurse could actually also would definitely be qualified to evaluate anyone's condition and do what is necessary for people who were in positions where they may be nursing home eligible, so that would definitely be monitored. So I just wanted to let you know that these are the things that I talked about with them, and they pretty much told me as an outsider the same types of things that they told you. So I just wanted to come up here and verify, and also tell you that I listened to the YouTube recording of one of your meetings, and if I were to live here, I would have some of the same concerns that you would in terms of, keeping it a quiet residential area, without any kind of facility that, like a nursing home or anything like that, that would kind of take away from the peaceful, quiet type situation that people live in. And if I moved here, I would want the same thing. So I would not move into anything that would destroy the residential neighborhood that you people love so much and treasure. I don't blame you. And I just wanted to say that, and also to say hello.
Hello.
And thanks.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know it's a tough spot as far as licenses are concerned, and you sometimes mention assisted living, but
I understand, yeah.
we're taking it for what it is. Because I know that that's the first word people think of, assisted living. But assisted living is a different license.
Right.
Yeah,
It's an adult care facility where you will get some assistance
Yeah.
in living. So, and that's the.
Yeah, and even in fact, in one of the emails that was given to you, that was clarified at the state, that would be, because they asked me that question, assisted living or adult? I said, no, adult care facility, it's in the email represented to the state. So what I'm representing to you today is what I've represented to the state. So there's no differentiation other than the other complaining people, oh, it's a for-profit company that owns it, but.
Well, I think there's some difficulty because people get it confused, like your neighbors.
Yes, I do agree with you, and I apologize for all confusion from the get-go, and that's what Mr. Pell has been so helpful, is trying to drill down to let you better understand what we're really doing, as opposed to the first attorney, I don't think really has much of a grasp as Mr. Pell does as to what's really going on there. So I thank you for that.
Just make sure you pay his fee. He
Well,
has certainly earned it.
I'll take you to all my meetings. Thank you.
Any other public?
Okay, anybody else from the public like to make a statement?
As a member of the public, it was pointed out that I was asking questions that were part of criteria, so I'd like to actually speak in the public comment section. As a member of the public.
Actually, you'd still be speaking as a board member.
I would.
You would be, so.
Interesting, they never pointed that out on many meetings I saw on TV as a board member did that, but okay. All right, well, this is definitely not part of criteria, that's why I wanted to point that out. I just was out of curiosity because I get asked a lot of questions about this project all the time, and I'm unable to answer people's questions, and I was telling them to come to the meetings, but they never did. So I know that there's 6 bedrooms on the second floor for occupants, up to 8 people are going to be possibly occupant, and there's 4 bedrooms upstairs. Definitely 2 people are going to be living up there, but possibly could be up to 4, maybe even 6, based on occupancy.
Up on the 3rd floor?
Yeah, based on occupancy allowable for the bedrooms.
Well, I can assure you there's not going to be that many people
Right,
up there.
based on occupancy
In theory.
allowable. In theory, it's
Yes.
possible, but right now it's just 2.
Right.
And as a woman who commented, and somebody who brought this up to me, one of the public comments 2 meetings ago was talking about how she was independent and plans to have her own car, so do her own things there, and somebody brought up the fact that, well, if there's going to be 8 people living in the second floor, that's each with their own vehicle, that's 8 cars, and plus another 2 people upstairs, it's another 2
Well,
cars.
I'll clarify that for you. Okay.
Plus another 2 cars then, and then there's staff with their vehicles, and it's definitely a lot more traffic than they were used to. If that's the case, then what used to be there was just a few staff members and a minibus. So, people are asking, is that going to be the case? And I'm like, well, on paper, that seems to be allowable. Is there anything that is going to prohibit that or
In
restrict that?
reality, I don't see it being the case.
Okay,
But yeah, again, my biggest problem with the building is the traffic through and preserving it. So I have the same concern, and that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to, for lack of a better term, privatize the property by putting the fence up and making a park right with bushes and as you've gotten on the design, is to keep it more private. It's obvious based on the survey that there's 17 spots.
right.
And it's always been 17 spots. So the exposure of 17 spots isn't changing from what it's always been. And I don't expect it even to get to that. And in fact, I expect most people who are going to come stay there are not going to be driving, more than likely, because of the location. It's a beautiful location to walk pretty much anywhere you want.
I live with walking distance, and I think I mentioned it on a previous meeting that I used to actually walk through that property as I grew up in the area. I used to walk through the property when I was 15. I had my first job at ShopRite, so actually I used to.
And that was my first job in Berber.
So yeah, I used to walk through that property all the time. In fact, I actually, a lot of the previous AHRC tenants, some of them worked at Chaparral with me, so I used to walk home. I used to walk home with them. I knew the property very well. And Mr. Peck, that was at the last meeting, who lived abutted behind the property.
Yes.
That's where I used to cut through. His daughter used to drive me to school. So.
Yeah, no,
I'm
what probably
just
concerned about it?
aware of all the people around.
Yeah.
I mean, most of their concerns is thinking about, well, previously they weren't all drivers in the house, even though there was predominantly, I mean, approximately the same number of people. They weren't each with their own vehicles, and they just had a small bus on property. And
Right.
is that going to be the case now, where they're going to have their own car, plus is there going to be a bus for, social events? They were all worried about the traffic.
Well, that's the beauty of only 6 to 8 people. We don't need a bus. ARC went up to 14 people at one point. We're talking about 8 old people. So there's, and that's like I said, what is there today, which is the way I'm looking at it. What was the exposure of the property the day we got it from the past? Meaning, what could they have done? None of that has been expanded. None of that is being expanded. The footprints of the house are staying the way, the driveway footprints are staying the way it is. Nothing's changing. I heard at the last meeting, 2 several meetings back, about people staying. No one's staying at the house. You can't. It's just not a formal, you just can't do it. It's too many people to have. I'm not comfortable with it anyway, personally. I've heard things about enterprise. Well, it's running a corporation for a profit. But nobody understood, as you guys heard today, nobody understands that what's really happening here is, as the owner of HRR, and I tell you wholeheartedly, we're only asking out of the property what we have in costs every month. That's all we care about. Anything over and above that is currently we're working on is putting it into this non-for-profit and letting that have the money to maintain the property. We put a lot of work and effort in it. Even Pam's over there painting. And I'm not, anything low, Pam can paint. Anything high, I'm allowed to paint. Because she worried about somebody going up to her and seeing my imperfections. Imagine a guy do something wrong. Can't happen. But we'll really be conscious about it. That's why the property's on the tax roll, it pays its taxes. It did this year. It's gonna get money from the rents from Rest Haven. Preservation's gonna keep the profits from it to reinvest it into it, and we're only gonna pay our costs. I mean, our return as HRR is in the value of the property. We don't want necessarily the cash flow. We'd rather keep it where it's worth it. I mean, we got another 100 years with this house probably.
So yeah, basically circling back to I was just basically saying that the concerns that I've been hearing from other people is the traffic concerns, it was going to be increased from what it is, and you're basically saying that your goal is to make sure it minimizes
everything more restrictive than it was before.
I mean, I think there probably will be a couple people, but I think generally the nature of the
not a dramatic
facility is most of the people who say most, because there are people who drive a decent percentage of the people who will live in this facility in the village because they don't have a car and they're paying to have a person there who can arrange for rides and can arrange to get in. That's part of what they're paying, because frankly the rent's here. If you have a car and you don't need assistance and you're likely going to rent an apartment and not go here. So I think it's kind of.
I understand. I was just more like just trying to find out. Like I said, I was getting a lot of questions from people that knew about this project, but I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, and there's a very straight answer. What you see is what you get. And that's why Mr. Zuckerman is so inundated with paperwork. Yeah, they asked for it, I gave it to you, from day one. Because I think that was important for the public to know. I know this is a little strange animal because it's not a not-for-profit, but the issue isn't about the profit or not-for-profit. The issue is obviously what it's been doing if it's grandfathered and what we're intending on doing with it. And it is not changing from what it was. And ARC actually, like I said, ARC had a license up to 14 there. We're talking 8. And we're talking 8 old people. And I've heard, one of my neighbors next door said they had a problem where some of the people used to go across the line under their property. That's why the fences are going up. To stop people from crossing the property lines where they really shouldn't be in the first place.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Just make sure it's staying on the ZBA.
Right, staying on the ZBA.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I said. This is not, this is a public, I have a right to make a question on.
Before we close the hearing, there's one other issue that is open, and that's as far as Rest Haven Inc., the operator,
Right.
Ms. Lee will be the sole officer, director, and stockholder of that corporation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
As of this moment? they're-
As of this moment, yeah. I mean, once again, we're applying, so if 5 years from now, Rest Haven Inc. may be replaced by another, you know,
Well,
facility.
we can only know
Yes.
this.
Yeah, right now, the application is Rest Haven Inc.
And as far as preservation of Rest Haven Inc.?
That's a separate
Has
entity.
that been decided yet as to who the officers, directors?
There are officers and directors there that are not, Ms. Lee was involved, she's out of that now, there's a separate list of directors. Neither Mr. Mitch or Ms. Lee are part of that, there's a separate people, and we're still trying to figure out how that's going to fit in and how the money is going to flow, but it's not.
And Ms. Calvis is out of all of these?
Yes. And that was made clear, and you'll see the applications to the state.
If you could give us a list of who, if there have been officers, directors, and stockholders already designated for preservation of Rest Haven, if you could give us their names.
And I can submit this formally if you want, it's just written. But the, Ann Taylor is the president. April Mitz is the secretary. Susan Salo, S-A-L-O, is the vice president. And the other members are Steve Navarro, Donald Bain, B-A-Y-N-E, Patty Bain, and Clyde Taylor.
Can you give a copy of that so that
That's,
it can be spelled right on the minutes? Yeah.
Or if you want me to type it and submit it tomorrow, I'll probably.
And then,
As long as you got good handwriting.
Yes.
and HRR Corp.
That's, well, actually, that's on that sheet.
We'll hold.
It'll be back in a minute.
You have the whole page, because I did. Okay, yeah, because I folded over this part for while you were gone, they asked me for HRR, so, and not for Cheryl. His mother and 2 brothers are trustees.
Does anybody have any further questions?
Well, is there, who are the stockholders of HRR?
Tim,
My 3 daughters' trusts are stockholders. There's 3 different trusts set up for the family benefit of my 3 girls. They're the stockholders. I'm a trustee, I'm one of the trustees, and I'm also president of the company. That's
Okay.
how I control everything, through the trust.
The reason I'm asking, which is I'm just leaving, like I said last time, one of the confusions we've had was that when the initial application was filed back in 2016, Pamela Lee was the president. When the contract of sale came about, she signed as the president, on the contract.
Right.
With it. When this SBA loan was looked for, Ms. Pamela Lee only 51% HRR and Calvis only 49%.
I could explain that for Wade for you, is we weren't given good structural advice in the beginning about how to handle this transaction. And originally, Ms. Calvis and Ms. Lee were gonna go in together. Ms. Calvis eventually left, and then we were advised to separate the property from the business, like anybody does today for liability reasons. And that's why you're sitting here with the way it is today.
So you're the president, not a shareholder, as
The trusts are. So I actually can't.
So the trust is divided 3 ways between the board.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you're just help them make the decisions.
I'm there for my kids to tell me what to do.
Right.
Problem is, they don't see it till they're 45. And I apologize for that confusion in the very beginning.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to,
Yeah, we're trying to
that's
formulate.
why I have so much paper.
Yeah, exactly, well, that's why we're trying to
Killing
formulate.
trees here.
Not on my property, they're not talking.
Yeah, my, let me find this. So when the application came into the zoning board on May 18th, 2017, you were already the president?
Yes.
of it?
Yes, yes,
So the changes had been made prior to May 18th,
Yes.
2017?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And have you examined the records, Mr. Capello?
My partner, Gary Schuster, I would have to get it.
I just want to say, as an officer of the court, is this correct?
Being honest with you, Jim Stein is president of HR, I qualified as president, but my partner, Gary Schuster, if you want us to submit something formally, say this is the information.
Well, I'll take it,
Yeah.
I'll take it from your word, if you just, at the next,
Yeah.
in December, if you can.
Yes,
check with
we'll clarify. I have no reason to doubt it, but I'm not going to say that I saw the actual certificates of corporation in documents because I did.
Just out of curiosity, did you get that SBA loan?
No, actually, with all the delays, that went wayside, and we've got other sources, and in fact, since you've asked it now, I'll raise it, we just got another $150,000 infusion to improve the property, to try and finish it up. And we've got some things coming down the pike very soon that may happen as well. 2 weeks ago, I had reached out to DC National Park Services. Turns out that once we went on the Natural Registry on June 26th of this year, which was only 3 months after we got the state designation, they had already looked at the file to make the house possibly a landmark status instead, and they wanted a letter from me, the company HRR, accepting as owner for them to do such a thing. So I'm waiting, by our next meeting, I'll at least have a letter supposedly that's going to say, hey, we're looking at you to make it a natural landmark. So that's where we stand in terms of, and I've been handling everything. Everything went through me.
This just came to me, maybe Ms. Lee can help, or you, Mr. Capello. You've applied for a license with the Department of Health. Do you have any idea how long it's going to be before you hear word as to when it's going to be granted, not granted, what's going to happen on it?
I believe they said it was like within like a 50% process, so.
You have an email dated July, I think it was July 5th one, or one in July 2016, where Ms. Dillon states that we're more than 50% through. Then we had to update some stuff. We had, and then the last document provided, which was they call Schedule 6, which I referred to you before, has all the forms, employees' handbooks, and the operation of the business, and how, all the detailed stuff that they want to see. And that was submitted at the beginning of October. So the only thing, once they get the review of that and clear it, they said they have no reason to believe at this point, I've been told verbally, to not clear it, is I then have to work with Mr. Cox about what to do about the sprinkler system in the house. And that's already, as you'll see in my summary, Mr. Capello, we investigated the issue of the seats, the chair lifts, we investigated the sprinkler systems a year ago. But David said until we get past you guys, then we can make those retrofits that need to be done by provision of law.
Is there any contingency that you have to get the approval of the zoning board prior to them issuing the license to you? Or?
They haven't said that we need anything, but again, on the other hand, in violation of zoning law, we can't, unless we get
No,
approved, we
I
can't open
understand, I
up.
just want to know whether it's
Yeah.
possible that you
It
might
might
get
be
that
a
before.
I don't know, I mean, we haven't got to that point I'm sure before they officially say, here's your license to operate, they're going to want a letter that it's in compliance with the zoning, and probably something before that there's a CO that whatever needs to be there, so there is something, but we will try to push them to see.
Yeah, I agree.
If
Fine,
there's
punch
any
list.
decision of this board that is in the affirmative for that, we would have it be subject to receipt of the valid
Yeah.
letter from New York
Right.
State Department of Health.
And
That would
it
be-
would, and it would not take effect until.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait, I would respect that, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You would, I think even the license might even say the number right now, I'm not sure, but something in there's gonna give you everything you've asked for tonight, or a lot of the answers you've asked for will be on there.
Okay, I guess-
Label this BB.
so-
Does this get labeled exhibit BB? Or AB? What is going on? I don't know, is it AB?
Okay, let's,
I mean,
it's BB. We'll enter the statements as far as HRR, the officers, directors, and stockholders of HRR, and the officers, directors, and stockholders of Preservation of Rest Haven Inc. and Rest Haven Inc. As exhibit BB.
If there's no further comments, you can close the public hearing.
I have to make a motion.
Yes.
Someone like to make a motion to close the public hearing subject to the, going over to the 10th of December in order to make.
No, it's
No, it would just
No.
be closing the public hearing, but what they asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, was you didn't want a decision to be made tonight, you just wanted to be able to
Right, if you
present all the
feel
evidence.
comfortable with the record, I would like that typed up with
If we're not
the,
doing that decision, why don't we just leave the public hearing open?
If there's no purpose for the
No,
public.
I got that at this point.
I would
The
just
next
ask
meeting is
that,
actually
just
12.
to clarify that the hearing,
Tenth
there's still a hearing
is
open on
Sunday.
Easter, and so we just want to adjourn
12th of
that.
December, Tuesday.
We would probably republish that,
Yeah,
Okay.
the 10th is
just so
Sunday.
that there's no confusion.
Okay.
It would be the 12th.
The
Yeah,
12th.
the 12th, right.
Okay.
So it would be a motion to close the public
My
hearing.
motion.
Okay.
Second
Second.
motion? Jerry.
Second.
Call the question.
I'm sorry, who motioned?
Jerry?
Jerry motion, Dick seconded.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
And so the applicant has requested that the, review what has been submitted tonight, and then it would postpone your deliberations and your decision until the 12th. So you would be finished with this application for tonight? And you can go on to number 3 on your agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy holidays.
Bye.
Thank you.